This time between sectors is a cat and mouse game. Welcome to the podcast where we discuss how to outmaneuver your opponents. I'm Faith and I'm here with Jrod and Dudeness. Today we talk about our local events, some of the behind-the-curtain details from Jump to Lightspeed, and we also talk about the post-Django world we're living in. But first, we have a new Star Wars series out, Andor, Season 2. Any quick thoughts from you guys about the new episodes?
No spoilers. I haven't watched, so I can't.
Oh, yeah, I've finished watching the first 2 episodes earlier today. It's absolutely incredible. I'm looking at the Rotten Tomatoes for episode 3, and it's sitting at 100%, and it was probably my favorite episode of the 3, so.
Well, look at that. So when you get to episode 3, comment below what your favorite part without as little spoilers as possible. All right. So we last episode talked a little about Django Ban and about the other bands from Triple Dark Raid and DJ.
So technically, little suspensions. Thank you so much.
How are you guys finding the post-Django world?
I'll be real honest. I was absolutely not playing Premiere, and then they suspended Django, and I was like, "Huh." And like the other 2 cards too with Triple Dark Raid and DJ. I was like, that really opens up like a lot of what you can do. So I've been in some of my spare time playing a bit more Premiere, kind of back at it a little bit, having some fun with it. So it's been more enjoyable for me. It definitely allowed me, I'm not going to be as competitive as I was right now. I'm still got a bunch of other stuff going on in life, but it made me want to go, let me see what this is like a little bit more. You know what I mean?
What have you been looking towards?
Honestly, I've been playing a little bit of Vader Blue. I have a showcase, so I wanted to see if I could make that good for Premiere. I have a store showdown coming up, and I might bring that, I might not. So if you're a local of mine, please close your ears and ignore what I just said.
In real honesty, you're going to play Chancellor Palpatine Blue, so
I actually haven't tested that yet in this standard this Premiere format, and I probably should because it might be good. You got a lot of nice tools. The best thing we got right now is that new the ship there that has ambush, the 2 cost 3/3 ambush ship that pings itself at the end of the phase or whatever.
Fireball.
Fireball, yeah. But the only problem with Fireball is that if you don't trade with it for turn 1 and it dies, it's gonna die before you can flip Palpatine, and that's kind of a little awkward for what we're looking to do. So
I was playing a game and my opponent played a turn 1 Restored Arc 2/3, and he played a Fireball and just didn't ambush, and then it got damaged. It was a 3/2. And then next turn, attacked, defeated it in the phase because it was defeated from combat, and then was able to flip Palpatine. So I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
That person clearly has a bigger brain than I, because I didn't even consider that. So that's a great idea.
I don't think it's always going to work, but it is something. It is a way to kind of maneuver that play. What about yourself, Dudeness? Anything you've been tweaking with, working with?
I've been messing around with the Data Vault Yoda list that made top 16 from the Denver R-Cube and or sectors. I forget which they are. I can never remember which they are. But it's got like Endless Legion, trying to bust out Endless Legion. It's got one of like Relentless and Annihilator to try to play. But I played at the locals this past week, and the only deck it lost against was a Vader Blue list, but she was going all space unit like swarm, and that thing went 3-0 on the night, and it just like was beating up everybody.
Don't tell everyone that. Stop it.
It was kind of gross. Like we were like, man, what I put in the sideboard for this deck? And we're like, Disruptive Blast, I guess, because there's a bunch of 1/1s floating around. Well, what really sucked is that I had regional governors in the deck, and I didn't know the matchup like at all before we played. I didn't know what I was supposed to be naming with regional governor. Now I know Victor Leader is what you're supposed to be naming with regional governor. When your opponent has 3, 4, 5 1/1s out and they plays Victor Leader, you're like, oh my god.
Victor Leader, can confirm, is real good.
I'm always a fan of any kind of lord that's going to make your whole team bigger. I've been playing quite a bit of decks, actually. I've been having some fun with just testing out, I would say, definitely not tier 1 decks, as in decks that are going to be meta, but definitely decks that I like to compete against the meta, and I think they all did pretty well. It was fun to break out. I think with seeing people from Denver play Data Vault was definitely interesting. Of like, I got to try that with Krennic, and I was using that, and that was fun. One of my favorite ones has been just to go wide Ahsoka deck from set 3 Ahsoka, and just getting all the cards I can to play token units, and just trying to go really, really wide. And it's been fun having a Gore as a top end, because you're like, all right, I deploy on resource 5, and then next turn when I have my droid manufacturing to make those little tokens out, and earlier hopefully I have some tokens that were out, using Gore to kind of top end over top. But the Krennic with the Data Vault's been fun as well.
And remind me, Gore is a 7/7?
7/7 Sentinel Ambush Overwhelm.
Overwhelm. It's got like all the keywords, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Exploit 3.
exploit 3.
Yeah, so you're kind of you're definitely just trying to go wide and then exploit. Go as wide as you can and then exploit. But then from what I've been playing against, so the reason I bring that up is I've tried to get a good 100 games as a basin with a bunch of my different decks. And I noticed that in that time, I versed a lot of Anakin, a lot of Quinlan, a lot of Sabine. So those have been kind of the leaders that I versed the most. A little bit of Boba 4, some decent Boba 4, Vader 4, a little bit of Palpatine, a little bit of Kazuda. So those I'd say were my most important leaders I versed against. Anakin, I saw a lot of Colossus, so the 35 health base is Anakin.
Mhm.
Sabine, a lot of ECL. I didn't see any yellow Sabine in my time, and the Django 4, a lot of yellow Django 4. Quinlan, obviously red. So the kind of decks you expected would be good. I saw a little bit of Han green. I didn't see any Han double yellow. So I think the
Yeah, I
DJ,
imagine Han double yellow is just dead as a deck now, right? Because DJ is
Yeah,
gone.
I
yeah.
think so. I from what I hear and have seen a little bit, Han Green has kind of taken that place of like the best Han deck. So
Think you can
hmm
try to get out like a U-wing reinforcement on this flip turn or something?
yeah, and they have Chewbacca, so they kind of like try to cheese people with Chewbacca. Basically, is their like
hmm
main game plan, and then they do a couple other stuff, and they do like other Han shenanigans with like on turn 5 you can play 7 drops if things go correctly for you and all that
Right.
stuff. So
Yeah.
New Chewbacca is actually really strong. It's just all right. What are you going to do about this unit now? And so I think
yeah,
definitely you want to look at like having traitresses or entrenched or some way to deal. You have to ask
No
yourself,
glory.
how am I going to deal with a wing into Chewbacca?
right.
Which is so banging because like that was one of my favorite cards spoiled early on, right?
hmm
And it ended up being probably one of the best cards in the entire set. And it was a starter card, dude.
Yep. I would say I think the Vader 4 list, I've seen some people go double green Vader 4 and like Unity of Purpose. I've been seeing a couple decks go with that game plan.
Curious.
hmm So that's the card that gives all of your units +1/+1 for each other named card that you have, or for each different named card you have. And the idea with Vader 4 is that by deploying, you get so many different like vehicles that are wider, and then you're just trying to attack with your units after they're all jacked up and they're like all 5/5s, even though they're 1/1s originally or 6/6s. I've seen it with I've also seen it with Rex. Unity of Purpose with Rex as a game plan.
Right, yeah.
I've seen a couple other creators make videos on that. Can't remember off the
I,
top of my head who they are, but
I've also seen a touch bit of people playing Luke. I imagine anyone that's going to one of the big events wants to get the showcases of Luke or Vader. I was actually surprised to see that Luke was the one that people have been targeting. I mean, I think the Vader art looks better, but clearly people are showing that Luke is the better leader for most people in this meta, from my experience playing.
Yeah, in this meta for sure.
I finally actually the last leader I was looking at my list, my little chart of how I've done was Piet. I've seen a little bit of Piet. I haven't seen Piet be that good, but I have seen it as a deck that people have been playing, getting to play those big ships.
yeah, I feel like the problem with that is like the red version, which I feel like people like first go to because it's like, oh, it has like Devastator, so I'm gonna go there, right? Um, but that has like one game plan, and it's about just doing like a big indirect damage to the base with planetary bombardment. And like if you can know they're doing that and play around that with either floating the board with units or making sure they don't have a capital ship in play as often as possible. Like there's just ways to like beat it. And then if he doesn't ramp and like it's very like one dimensional. It's like I'm doing this thing and I can do it really well, but this is the thing I'm doing. So if you can't mess with that or whatever, then I win. But like if you can, I kind of just lose. So it's a very like variant leader. Like he's just doing one thing. Like, he doesn't have many like levels to him.
Hmm.
Yeah, but whenever you cast Bombardment with a Devastator,
Oh yeah, you probably won the game. 100%.
that feels good.
Yeah, especially when they have nothing on the board, and you're just like, "Hey, take 12," and they're like, "Oh, okay, I will take 12. That's correct. Yes, thank you. I will choose to take 12."
Actually, I do want to give a shout out because I was thinking that I have seen a Vader list for this set. So shout out to Late Night Gaming and particularly Loopy, who posted a video on the Late Night channel. So do check that out. He's been a big fan of Vader since I think set 1. So if you want an idea of how to play him, that would be your guy.
And also, while we're on topic of Loopy, he'll be doing some coverage this weekend. Well, it'd have been last weekend, so it'll be past already, I guess, unfortunately, for this, so it won't be out in time. But they did some coverage of Richmond, so
They
if
normally
you're...
they post playback sometimes
Yes,
from the
so
event.
they do. So absolutely check those out. Give that guy some love because he does a lot for competitive gaming in Star Wars Limited. Like, he's one of the main humans that organizes everyone and gets people to go on for like guest spots and all that kind of stuff. So you might see someone from Outmaneuver on one of those guest spots potentially, maybe.
Ooh.
Spoilers?
Oh no, we don't spoil anything here unless we're allowed to from FFG.
Yes. So it's been interesting though to see. I will say in the post Django world, I don't see as much of a shakeup as I did from the post Boba world. Partly that is due to the fact of just there hasn't been as many events so far. That's not to say that I don't appreciate the Django ban still. I just I am interested to see if we can get another leader that kind of shines. But the leaders that we have, like, and I saw some Anakin, I saw some Quinlan, I saw some Boba before the ban. So I want to see if any other surprise leader can come out.
What? So let's have everyone make a guess of like what they think that a leader that wasn't really meta before that would make it take a jump potentially to be possibly meta.
I'll say first because I think Palpatine from set 1.
Okay.
If we're gonna count, I didn't see a lot of events with him placing, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna count that.
I mean, people still played him, but I would say he wasn't meta. He was like a fringe deck. So okay, tracks. Dudeness.
Question being who I think might rise in the meta.
Yeah, like so, like last meta was a lot of like Django, Quinlan, Han, some Sabine in there, right? So like those were like the meta stuff, and you had like Iden and stuff like that. Not Iden, Kira or Bosk, right? Like
Anakin.
Anakin as well. Like those were kind of like the typical people you would see. So outside of those, like who do you think might take a step forward now that Django's gone?
I mean, it's got to be Sabine, right?
Well,
Well,
Sabine, I counted it in the meta before, so
Oh, sure. I don't know, some other aggro deck that was being put down by obnoxious tap down effects by Django.
Kazuda.
Yeah, Kaz. Like, I mean, that's pretty obvious, right? Like,
that's where I thought you were gonna go with that. That's why
yeah,
I
like
was.
it's definitely like some aggro leader should come up and rise to prominence.
I think like Kaz or maybe Poe could be real good for something like that. As
That being
fill
said,
that
like
slot.
Quinlan Target Town is still a thing. You can still get your turn 1 play nuked for
Yeah,
free.
Not if you run the delegate, the 1/5 for 2 that lets you draw a card.
True.
got him.
Or
Yeah,
just
all right.
run fielded.
That card is fun because when we look at our boy Qui-Gon Jinn, he can bounce him back to
Oh
your hand,
God.
and it's not defeated, so you don't have to discard a card. It's just a free draw.
Pretty good.
Oh,
Pretty good, yeah.
It's
it's
value,
not
dude.
bad. I'll give you that. It's not bad. I can't wait to do it in Twin Sons.
I
Um,
really should do that at my
so,
sealed event, dude.
got him. If it's
Yeah.
in the set, you don't know if it's gonna be in the set. So my fringe, my leader that I think is gonna take a chance to get in. I think it's gonna be Vader. Set 4 Vader.
Death Vader? That's fair.
Yeah, I think he's been really good. Him coming out +5/+5, even on a TIE fighter is a 6/6, which is
Yep.
massive.
That's
Like,
gross.
yeah, it's like, and you can't fell it, obviously. So like, and he can just deploy to the ground as a 5/6, which is like also just very good. So he I think it does a lot of work, and I think that he could potentially break through that. But we'll have to see because obviously pilots can be very finicky if they become overly popular. Him or I think Boba Fett could do a little bit, even though Boba was kind of I'm talking set 4 Boba Fett.
Yeah.
He was kind of a fringe player in the meta because people didn't really want to play Django, so they played Boba a little bit. So um, he's also good, but I think if we start seeing more pilots come about, we'll just start seeing a bunch of upgrade hate, and they'll fade into the oblivion.
Yes, and that's a great transition. Thank you, Jrod, for us talking about one of the articles that we got from Tyler Parrott, the Tyler Parrott, in which he talked about some of the design process that went into Jump to Light Speed in particular, but also kind of as leaders as a whole. And Dudeness, do you want to give a little summary from that article?
Sure. So he talks about the concept of space leaders as a whole, and a very interesting part was that they were always intended to be in the game from set one. And if you notice, some of the leaders from set one have art in a cockpit, despite the fact that they're not actually in space. Mostly referring to like Hera, Han Solo, and Tarkin's on the bridge of a Star Destroyer. All those leaders were meant to be in space initially. And that was always supposed to be a mechanic, but just didn't go the right way earlier on. The unique role was still in place. It wasn't how we have it right now. It was still like the old, you go have one Han Solo period across all versions of cards, etc. I'm talking about how now if your Han Solo flips into a Millennium Falcon, should you even put Falcons in your deck? Because if Falcon is out as a leader, you can't have him out as a card, etc., etc. This makes you not even want to put Falcons in your Han Solo deck, which should just be the most basic, like, thought process. Hey, Han Solo deck, let's put the Falcon in it, right? There shouldn't be a decision of whether or not to put the Falcon in a Han Solo deck. You just put it in there. But as it was before, space leaders kind of made you not want to do that, so they kind of precluded it. They took it away, and they brought it back for pilots in set 4, as we've all seen. And he said that he didn't envision that being their first iteration of space leaders, but he was okay with it. He talks about what the different pilots are actually meant to do to kind of counteract the downsides of piloting. Like some of them, like Luke, can't be defeated, while others are more like straight aggro, like Kaz at 4-drop. If you don't answer Kaz and he deploys on 4, he just has tremendous amounts of power, but he is weak to that upgrade hate like we were just talking about. All of this is intentional. Talks about how all the leaders initially were supposed to be like Poe. Like everyone was just pay 1 and deploy your leader onto a ship. But obviously they didn't like that and only left it for Poe in that particular iteration. A lot of interesting insight into their design process and getting space leaders to us that I thought was a really good article.
I agree. I always love getting that behind the scenes because we only see the end result. We don't see them testing. Oh, there was a time when they had the unique rule. Like that's a complaint people have had. Some people like, oh, why can't I have 2 Han Solos on the board? And the fact that that wasn't the case for so long, and then it eventually changed. I know, Dudeness, you really wanted to have, especially in set 1, Han deploy as the Falcon into space.
Right.
And in that article, it did seem to indicate that that could still happen.
Yes. They don't know when, potentially, but the option is still there. It's still on the table. It can still be a thing. I'm still hoping it will be a thing. I'm glad that they initially thought of space leaders, though, because to me, it was like the most obvious design space to enter when you're talking about leaders. You have 2 lanes. Well, let's have leaders that can affect both lanes, right? That's pretty absurd, I guess. But
I would also say what I appreciated was the fact of in set 1, they were talking about having 3 space leaders. So that means that we don't have to worry about another space set until we can get a leader that can interact with the space arena in that way.
Yeah, they can just have a handful of them in the set be space leaders. To kind of satisfy, like, hey, check it out, space leaders, cool, right?
Yeah, exactly. They also mentioned about how one of the like they've talked a little bit before about this, about how some leaders are quote unquote slotted into certain sets and then they kind of gets moved away from that's just part of the rotation. But they talked about how set 3 was supposed to have Admiral Trench, I think he said. And that would have been, I think, interesting with how Admiral Trench works with set 3 because they have Palpatine, who also kind of works differently. So they clearly they saved Palpatine in that slot, but they brought Admiral Trench, a leader who can deploy multiple times, into set 4, which I think is kind of a good idea too.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what other iterations of space leaders they give us. Like I said, my favorite part of Star Wars has always been the space battles, the spaceships, the fighters, the bombers, the capital ships, everything. And so not having leaders that affected that side of the arena always kind of didn't sit well with me.
And I think Tyler in that article, Tyler even mentioned how when they were kind of pitching the game, Danny had the idea of what most likely became Star Wars Unlimited, but
Yeah,
he had envisioned this these battles, these ground and space battles happening at the same time. So he talked about, I think, like maybe trying to win different arenas or win different areas of battle, but clearly there is some of this idea again of the ground and space battle that happened. I really do appreciate of Star Wars Unlimited.
for sure. I mean, those are some of the best parts of Star Wars, right? Like end of episode 6.
You mean it's not about talking about trade routes?
It's not actually, or even midichlorians.
J-Rod, any thoughts from you on the article or any part of our conversation?
I have yet to read the article, so that's why I've been a little quiet about it.
Fair.
And
Any idea?
also,
Any
Jack
thoughts
from
about
Golden Dice
space?
has been in my DM talking crap, so I'm coming to get you, Jack. Space leaders, I would love some space leaders. I'm with Dudeness on that. I think that would be great to have something that just deploys into space and not have the upgrade thing. It's cute, but like I think that like long term, like even thinking like Twin Sun stuff, it's like I am hesitant to invest in like a showcase that's a pilot. I don't know if it's going to be good enough to like be a long term decent leader for Twin Sun, or something like Sabine or Iden or Han Solo from Set One. Like those are like good showcases that like once they rotate out of Premiere, I will try to pick up because they'll be cheaper, so I can have them for Twin Suns. You know, like the more like general stuff that can't be easily removed is kind of where I think so. I would be very excited to have some leaders that just deploy into space. I think that'll really change how the game's played because you kind of get a little bit of that right now with the upgrade stuff, with the pilots. You know, if one person's going all ground, one person's going all space, it's just like really weird like thing. And of course, the best card to use in that instance is outmaneuver. Hey,
Hey,
but yeah,
you said
so
the thing.
it is a thing. Yeah, I'm all on board on space leaders. I'm with Dunas on that. I know that Dunas is probably through the moon. That he's like, I have faith again.
Faith has been restored.
I do appreciate when they talked about how they want to really allow players to choose the way they want to play the game. So they didn't want to totally take out the fast piloting leaders or the kind of more risky ones or the kind of just generically better ones so you can play no risk, like the Luke Skywalker can't be destroyed as an upgrade. So like I appreciate the fact that they didn't go totally safe and say all of them are going to be like this. They took a little bit of a chance and they said, okay, some of they're going to be different tolerance levels for different kinds of people or different kinds
Yeah, very cool.
of. And we also, I want to just briefly now move away from that and talk about a local event. So next week, we've got a couple events here in the Twin Cities area of Minnesota. We've got Star City Games is having an open, and they've got I think a 1K, a 2K, and I think another 1K on 3 different days. At that same day on Saturday, we also have a planetary qualifier, and in the same city, small like part of the bigger city, but the small city that's having the planetary qualifiers also have a different store having a store showdown.
Mm.
And in the past, we had been able to, in this from the city, get multiple 100-person events fill up in the same day. And just looking at some of the numbers registered now, I see the Friday 1K has, I think, 4 people signed up so far. The 2K on Saturday, I haven't checked what that sign up is, but it's not crazy. Even the planetary qualifier, we only have so far 30 people signed up for it. So that means that store showdown, I imagine, will be even less. So it's just interesting. The numbers have kind of seemed to drop a little bit of people in this area at least playing. Obviously, not all areas are the same. I imagine we do have the sector qualifier here, so it's possible people are waiting for that. But yeah, it's just something I thought was interesting. I also saw the week after the Denver regional, there was a Star City event there. and their 2K had, I think, 9 people signed up for it. So just some, I think, a little bit. No, Star City Games events aren't always for Star Wars Unlimited. Like, it's more of a Magic the Gathering focus. So that could
Right.
potentially be a reason why. But just kind of some interesting numbers to watch out for.
Well, also not for nothing, but Star City is likely not promoting that to the level like I don't see any one of the bigger creators like pushing the Star City games like that's like low that, but like you have like Channel Fireball or I don't know, like in Star City themselves, like those things are usually like, oh, we're going to this event. Like you hear about it from like the pro Magic players or whatever to promote the events. Where like we don't really have that for Star Wars Unlimited right now for like those.
Mm-hmm.
So like I even myself tend to hear about those like the week before. I was like, oh, are you going to this event? And I'm like, what event? What? How did no one? How did I not hear about this? Like kind of
Mm-hmm.
wild. So I think they could do a bit better of promoting those for Star City to get more people there. But yeah, also like with this being season 0 and like there's no like point system, it doesn't really make sense to grind events. Like if you're hoping to win one, you always do is spike one. So your best bet is to just practice a bunch and get real good at your deck, and then go to one event, try to spike that event and go win it, and that way you save the most money and time and all that stuff. You know what I mean? So I
Mm-hmm.
can understand a bit why people might not want to be going to the smaller events and rather go to the big one, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, I know a bunch of people locally are going to Richmond this past weekend. We're recording on Friday, so it's this weekend coming up. But when you guys hear this, it'll be Monday. So this past weekend that just happened, I know I have a ton of friends that are going from New England to Richmond. So you know, I think the bigger events will draw more people for that. And then but people can't. They have to pick, and then Worlds is coming up soon too. So it's like, what do I decide? Do I go to Worlds? Like even myself, I spend this money in the game. I definitely am trying to get to Worlds, but myself, it's like I'm going to Worlds, so I'm not going to Minnesota or Richmond or anything like that because I don't want to spend the money on that. I'm just going to go to Worlds, you know?
Yeah. And I don't want to say this as like a panic alarm, everything's bad, game's dead. I'm not trying to say it for that, but I think it is important to again like talk about are people showing up, because at the end of the day, games are most fun, I find, when there's a lot of people there.
Hmm. I agree. And like the thing about it is like when we get to the point where going to these smaller events earn you points to get to the Worlds, right? Because that's something that is possible. So for me, it's like then people will be like, okay, now I have a reason to go to all these events, whether I win, lose, or whatever, because at least I'll earn some points towards Worlds. So the more I go to, the more likely it is I'll be able to attend Worlds for a discount or cheaper or get a buy or whatever maybe it is. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I think that will likely incentivize people to go the more.
I think
Yeah.
that's a pretty good point. Yeah. Right now, there's not a lot of incentive to go outside of straight up winning it
Right.
outright. And
And
even still I don't remember, what are the PQ promos this set?
so the store showdown ones are with Devastator.
Devastator, right? Which is banging.
The PQ one is black 1 for participation, and home 1 for top for being top.
Neither of which really see a lot of play, right?
Black 1 would see some play, obviously, in Poe, and that would
Right.
be
It
it.
sees more play than home one for sure.
Yeah.
Just because 2
Yeah.
drops are a lot more flexible than 9 pseudo 6 drops.
Yes. I think the biggest. So for me, having those kind of 3 events in one day, I was thinking about that myself. Like, which of these events do I care most about? Well, I like the promo of the PQ, of the promo of the Store Showdown of the Devastator. Obviously, that one's really cool. I was thinking like, well, I guess the PQ is still better because if I win, I can get the buy to day 2 of Galactic, which is good. But to that point, as J-Rod's kind of saying, like, you only get the buy if you win the event. At least if you go to regionals or sectors and you top 8, you can get the buy. So that's kind of nice too,
Mm-hmm.
about those bigger events, and potentially even win a showcase of your leader by just finishing top 64.
Yeah, I think there's just more incentive to go to the bigger ones. Like the smaller ones have now, like it's the same thing. Like think about store showdowns for set 1. Everyone went. They were like, people had like 60 people store showdown because
Yeah.
we didn't have anything else. And then PQs came out, and then showdowns were like maybe 10 people if you were lucky. And then PQs were like hundreds and hundreds of people. And now it's like, okay, well now we have something bigger. And it's like the system is in place in the future for them to earn points for those smaller events. but it's not there right now. So people don't. I understand it. We're in season 0. It's okay. Like, it's definitely not a bad thing. The game is selling well on TCG Play, all that stuff. Like, it's not like the game is dying. Like, it's just, I think just the way the things are structured currently, that will be changing in the future for better. That,
And it sounds like on this very particular weekend, this local player base is being stretched very thin across multiple events as well.
Yes, I think it's definitely questionable the amount of events that are all scheduled at the same time. So maybe lack of planning, it seems. I think actually in one of the Twitch streams, it was mentioned that if they wanted to reschedule their Store Showdown, they could, because they realized it was a planetary qualifier that day. And I guess they chose not to, so that's their own choice. One thing I would like to still see, though, is I really want to see limited Store Showdowns. Limited, like, the format limited, so draft or sealed for these events.
I think draft is a very underappreciated format in this game because the draft modes are fantastic. I drafted basically every single set at least a couple of times, and I've loved it. I've enjoyed it. I've even won one with set 1. I drafted it so much that I had to force myself to use other leaders other than the good ones. So I ended up drafting a Emperor Palpatine deck, and I ended up winning the draft with that. So that was a fun accomplishment for that. So like it's fun. It's a good draft format, and I think they should absolutely do some limited events for that. The problem is you can't really do drafts for that. It would have to be sealed and then top 8 drafts.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
but I
it's
agree.
Also more expensive too, right?
Yeah, I mean, but the players pay more for it. Yeah, usually competitive players don't need packs, but I think it's a real cool way to see who like is really good at identifying good cards and stuff like that, especially for like a new set. Like it's gonna sound weird, but like for Worlds, and they're never gonna do it this year, but like set 5 is a couple of weeks in. People won't have a ton of time to test with the cards for World. So we're gonna be going in kind of like brand new meta. We don't really know what's gonna go on. And I think that would have been a great time to be like, and it's the first one, so they're definitely going to do Premiere because it's their main format. But like, it would have been awesome as like, hey, we're going to do sealed. Everyone's going to need some cards. That way, no one's worried about I don't have the cards for World, and you just do sealed and then top 8 draft.
It also allows you to have a different format, so you're not necessarily a full format or full of Quinlan, of all the good leaders. Anakin, you get to see different leaders because in limited, again, I think for us, we all really enjoyed in set 1 playing Jin. And no one's seen a Jin deck in Constructed, but in limited, she's pretty decent. And so it's like it just allows different leaders to open up. For those that haven't played any other card games, I want to let you know that the limited environment in this game, the way that they intentionally design packs, is special. Magic is definitely the gold standard. But I would say that Star Wars has a really interesting take on it, and they do a really good job. In my mind, I like it better. I'm not going to though say that Star Wars is better than Magic. That's a crazy thing to say. Magic has tons of experience, but and I'm just going to be honest. Like games like Lorcana have a limited format, but they have to change the basic rules of their game, which just like it shows they didn't care about it ahead of time. In Star Wars, you could tell they care about it, which I love.
Yeah, they designed Star Wars with draft in mind on top of the game.
I mean, they were always saying it was like a day 1 goal, right? If this doesn't work with draft, we got to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, and so it's like when you have, for them, that's even more of a reason. They have that from day 1 in their like idea of this is what they want. Then use that, take advantage of it, and like let's have events with it. Again, to Jrod's point, you're not going to have the Galactic Championship with it, though that would be cool.
This year.
But yeah, this year. But you could, but again, having more events with it, even a PQ, even a regional sector potentially. But yeah, just having different ways to qualify for the game makes it really exciting and just adds a different element.
Don't those like Pro Tour weekends and stuff, they have like a mix, right, of one event, and they'll do like some sealed or some draft, and also go back to Constructed, and it'll be like an overall points kind of thing, right?
I know in Magic there are some like at least before when I was playing Magic more, there would be like Grand Prix that were based in sealed. So, like there was like one major event. Let's just say like Minneapolis was Premier, and then the next weekend Richmond that was a sealed event. So that was the main thing. There were side events which you can always go, which had
Right.
standard, or had premiere, or had draft. But yeah, each weekend had a main theme.
And like, we have 3 days of worlds. Now, obviously, the first couple of worlds, first like 2 probably would be perfect. Reasonable, understandable. People are still learning the game. Awesome. Year 3, I think you spice it up. Day 1, right? So all the good players, all the people who've played a bunch of Premiere to get there, they're going to get a bye, right? So day 1, where everyone else who's been able to earn an invite to Worlds plays Premiere. Then you take the people who survived day 1, go to day 2, and you do what's the extended format they called the Eternal format?
I don't know if they have a name for it yet, but
okay.
Yeah.
So whatever the Eternal format is going to be, maybe you can have that for a day. You can play any card you want, right? Then the final day 3, it's sealed into top 8 draft.
Top 8 draft is always a great way to end it.
And you know what? It challenges players. So hey, guess what? I can't just grind Premiere. I have to grind Premiere. I have to grind this, and I have to do drafts. And like, it makes people play more of the game. And I think it's like, who can be the best at Star Wars Limited is not just who can be the best at Premiere. Now, Twin Suns you can't really do because it's a multiplayer format, so I don't think that will ever be in Worlds. If they can get creative and figure out a cool way to put it in there, that'd be interesting. But I'd rather just see what I had mentioned there, which would be finishing on draft.
Yeah, I was just say I kind of want to keep Twin Suns as casual myself.
100%.
I think it's made as a casual format, like, and that's not a bad thing. Like, let people have fun and not have to be sweaty about Twin Suns. But I've also, to your point as well, I think that it's really cool to test multiple disciplines. It's like in the Olympics, they have the decathlon. Like, you have to do, one person is doing 10 different events. So that's kind of it would be a cool thing in a card game as well. I'm also, though, open to a similar idea I mentioned before on this podcast, the trio event where you have 3 people on a team and they take a different one of those roles. So whether it's the one person doing all 3 different formats or a team of 3 doing different formats, I think that's a really fun space for the game to be in.
It would be really awesome if they did like a whole year of team events. So everything was a team event. So you and your team had to go to the events, and you as a team would earn. If your team won, you'd get to go to Worlds as a team. Like, that would be an awesome thing that they do. I would love to see that. And even in a team event, you could have one person doing sealed, one person doing Premiere, one person doing whatever the Eternal format is. Or you can say, okay, you have a team. You guys can only use, between the 3 decks, can only have a copy of a card, like a playset of a card throughout all decks. So if you want to play 3 Luke Skywalker units, you can only have one person playing 3, or you could have each person playing 1, which probably is the worst option, right? You probably want to have one person playing 3 and find other decks to play. But I think that would be really cool and interesting for deck building purposes, right? Because then that way you can only have one person playing like the Jango Fett of whatever that format is, and then the other 2 guys have to play something else.
Well, really interesting ideas. And again, I think we got the game has a lot of legs, has a lot of new things to develop. We'll have to see how FFG takes it. We'll never know. We never always know what happens, but it's up to them to decide which formats to grow, which things to focus on, and we'll have to wait and see. Any final comments from you guys before we head out?
Watch Andor.
Good luck to everyone this weekend.
Wonderful. Well, thanks you guys for listening. We'll see you next time on Outmaneuver.
Yep, cheers.
Later, everybody.